All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is 11 a.m., so thank you so much for joining me. Today's webinar, we're going to be talking about working with sellers. I'm also trying to live stream this webinar on our workplace group at the same time. So just give me a couple of minutes to troubleshoot that, see if I can get it working. And either way, we'll get started at 11:05. So thanks. Talk to you soon. All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I see some familiar names on the list here, so nice to see you guys. Today we're going to be talking about working with sellers. I'm going to make a quick announcement now, and then I'll say it again at the end of the webinar. I just want to let you know that we have updated our training calendar. So typically we have our phone skills session, and then we have our customer service session as well. We're actually going to combine those two. So on Thursday at 11, that's what we're going to be talking about. And we've done that in order to make space for Tuesday's webinar. We have Dr. Mike joining us, and he's going to be talking about well-being and productivity. So I highly recommend tuning into that one. So Tuesday at 11 with Dr. Mike. And like I said, we'll combine phone skills and customer service on Thursday at 11. So just stay tuned, check into the workplace group under training. I'm gonna try to keep you guys as updated as possible. I tried to live stream this, but it just wasn't letting me. So we're just gonna do it our traditional way on a Zoom meeting here. And if you guys have questions, please talk to me, drop some questions in the Q&A. There's the chat option as well. I see somebody raise their hand. If you have something that you wanna ask, again, just type it out in the Q&A. All right, thanks so much, guys. So let's get started. So really what we're going to be talking about today is working with sellers. So that is going to include everything from preparing a CMA, so your comparative market analysis, suggesting a list price for your clients, We're going to be talking about listing presentations, what to bring with you. I'm also going to recommend where you can download some templates to make your listing presentation look really great, really professional. We're going to talk about marketing your listing, and then of course we're going to be talking about offers. We are keeping in mind today our current state of affairs, so COVID-19. We're going to be talking about open houses and the mandate that we've just received from TREB, sort of warning against doing open houses, and then we'll talk about virtual tours as well. So we've updated this training a little bit to obviously keep in mind what's happening in the world today. So I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are busy. If you're not doing a ton of showings, at least you're tuning into things like this. Hopefully you're furthering your education, not just with these webinars that we're offering at Zolo, but there are a whole bunch of other webinars that are available to you online. So hopefully you're furthering your education so that we come out of this, as top producing professional realtors. So let's start with ours here. All right, so let's talk about the initial conversation that you should be having with sellers. So this could be either a lead that comes in through your CRM. I think though, more often than not, it happens during a showing. So if you're going out to show a potential buyer a property, they may disclose during the showing that they also have a property to sell. So of course you want to ask them questions about their property. Where is it located? So what's their address? How many bedrooms and bathrooms do they have? Obviously, you'll be able to see that information when you look it up on MLS later, but just have a conversation about what they've done to the property. Have they done any renovations? Because if they did buy it 10, 15 years ago, what you might find on MLS is no longer accurate. So ask them what they've done to update the property. And then also ask them if they have a price point in mind. I love this question. I think it's super important. I think a lot of times people will counter that question and say, well, that's why, we're asking you if you can come over for a market evaluation, if you can let us know. But if you press a little bit harder and you ask them, did you see a neighbor that recently sold? How does that compare? Is it more or less than what you think you would get for your property? That usually gets them talking. And it's really good to kind of get a good gauge as to where they are, because if they say, oh yeah, no, the neighbor sold for 1.3 and ours is much nicer, then you know that they're looking at higher than 1.3. And when you go back and look at the comps, you can tell right then and there, are their expectations way out of whack? Are you going to have to go into your listing presentation with comparables that are going to have to kind of give them a reality check? Or maybe are they thinking that it's lower, than what they can actually get? So asking that question, knowing where they stand, gives you a really great kind of clue, right, as to how you have to prepare for the listing presentation. If they are meeting with other agents, you can ask them if they are or not. And then if they are, interviewing 3 or 4 agents, ask to go last. That's something that's been recommended by other top producing agents, because then if you do come in and you're the last agent to present, then you might ask them, was there anything that you liked from the previous listing presentations that you had with other agents that you didn't see in my presentation? What is it that, I can offer to you to either set myself apart from those or to include something that I may have overlooked? And it may be something really simple. It may be something like, well, another agent came in and they offered that they were going to do aerial photos. Well, sure, no problem, right? You may not have put that into your original listing presentation, but certainly it's something you can do. And then, you can obviously offer that to them as well. So it's nice to go last. It's nice if you are in competition to know what the other parties are offering, right? So have that initial conversation with them, ask them about the property, ask them if they're interviewing other agents, ask them if they can go last. But most importantly, I think the key question here is ask them if they have a price point in mind, just so that, again, you know how to prepare for the presentation. All right. Obviously, we're not going to go into the CRM, but just a quick reminder here that if you do have a listing presentation, then don't forget to go into your CRM and update your meeting. You want to be updating your meetings, not just for listing presentations, but also for first meetings. So I'm just going to throw that in there right now as well. So if you're taking people out on showings, don't forget to also select that as a first meeting. For some reason in the back end, just so you guys have this information, even though you're taking people out on showings, it doesn't necessarily show that you're meeting with people, and that is a metric that the system wants to see in order to continue your lead flow. So definitely be updating your meetings. So, I mean, just a quick overview, obviously with your CRM, you want to be updating your calls, your showings, and your deals, but don't forget about that meeting button as well. So yeah, like I said, first meeting, if you're meeting buyers, make sure you update that, but obviously your listing presentation as well. At the end of all of this, if you do get a listing agreement signed, then that's great. You'll want to click on the agreement button and just update the CRM with a listing agreement signed. So just a couple of reminders there about the CRM, because of course, that's how we get our leads. So let's talk about preparing a competitive market analysis. Now, I know that we spoke last time on the webinar. Mike Atkinson was on here with us, and he had some suggestions. I will post the link to what he was suggesting last time. But for our purposes today, I'm just going to go over how to do it in Trev. So obviously, you want to prepare yourself for a listing presentation, and one of the things they're going to ask you for is, what do you think I can list this for, right? What do you think I can get for this? And it's going to be hard, really, without seeing the property first. So I always like to pull 3 comparables. So 3 active listings. So what's out there right now? What's our competition? What has recently sold? And what has recently been terminated? So in other words, what's our competition? What has sold before? That will give you the kind of a price range to work with. And then what has been terminated? That's going to tell you probably what's been listed too high and what hasn't sold. So again, I like to print off 3 actives, 3 sold, and 3 terminated. So you're going to get that from Trev. So you'll want to log in and just make sure that you are selecting properties that are obviously comparable to the property that you're going to show. So if you're doing a listing presentation in a condo, those are great because there's often a lot of comparables. The same floor plan has likely sold before. So you're able to go into Trev, you're able to select condos, you're able to select unavailable properties that were previously for sale. So that's going to give you a long list. But you will be able to specify your search criteria or narrow it down a little bit more. So again, you'll be able to put in the specific address. So if it's a complex and there's 6 buildings in that particular apartment complex, then you can put in the range. So the address would be 5200 to 5300 Dundas, right? If you know that that's kind of what the addresses are for that complex. So make sure that you're putting that in. Obviously, we're not going to enter in what the price is because that's what we're trying to figure out, but do select how many bedrooms. And I mean, if you were doing a freehold property, a detached home, then you might want to enter in, lot size and things like that. But we're just working with the example of a condo here. Make sure that the last status is sold. So you're not looking at terminated. You don't want to get them all mixed up, kind of do it one at a time. So selecting your criteria, that's going to give you a long list of properties that have sold. And then I just like to simply sort it chronologically. So I'll have the most recent sales up at the top. And then from there, I can select, the ones that are similar. So if it's a 1-bedroom and den, then I only want to be looking at the 1-bedrooms and den. And what did they sell for, right? If you have a unit that you're looking at, and so you're doing a listing presentation in unit 408, if you have a recently sold property, say unit 208, then that's probably going to be the same floor plan. So take a look at those ones. Those ones are going to be your best comparables. And then of course the other unit numbers will likely have a different layout. So just keeping that in mind. And then selecting, of course, as I said, the best 3, right, that have recently sold. You don't want to be going back a year ago. You don't want to be going back, 6 months ago even, especially right now, things are changing so quickly. So just select the really recently sold properties and then print those out. So as I said, you're taking with you 3 active properties, 3 sold properties. So this is where you would get those recently sold properties from, and then 3 terminated listings. So grabbing those off of Trev, and then you're ready for your listing presentation. So what do you bring with you to your listing presentation? You want to obviously bring the properties that you printed out. So your comparative market analysis. Bring your listing presentation. So we'll talk about that in the next slide. But your listing presentation, you can prepare on your own. You can have a PowerPoint presentation similar to what this is. And you can download quite a few templates from a website that I always recommend. It's called breakthroughbroker.com. And they have a whole bunch of different templates and different colors that you can select. You can upload your picture and your contact information. So it's a really easy to use website, and it's a really professional looking listing presentation, and they've kind of filled in a whole bunch of stuff for you. So take the time to prepare that, especially now that we're all working from home and we probably have a few extra hours. really take the time to sharpen your listing presentation. Explore the Breakthrough Broker website. As I said, there's lots of templates there that you can choose from. And then bring it with you to the listing presentation. And then bring it in a variety of different formats. So bring it on your laptop, print it out, bring it in a binder, or have it bound. You know, take the extra step, go to Staples or wherever and have it nicely bound. You might want to have it on your iPad, whatever is easiest for you, but have it in a few different formats. And the reason being is when you show up to a listing presentation, sellers are going to kind of, they're all different, right? So we kind of have to follow their lead. Some people will want to do the listing presentation, you know, oftentimes in the kitchen. So you're sitting at the kitchen table and, you know, just follow their lead. Sometimes you'll have the couple sit down at the kitchen table and they're going to, you know, have their arms crossed and they're expecting you to pull out the whole presentation. In that case, take out your binder, do a formal presentation. But other times you meet with a couple that may, you know, be offering you a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and they want to kind of engage and have more of a conversation. So again, follow their lead. And in that case, you may want to pull out the binder, right? So it's a little bit more interactive. So again, just following their lead, having it in different formats so that you can communicate with them the way they want to be communicated with, right? Don't forget to bring the listing agreement. So you want to have that. You don't want to have them commit to listing with you and then you can't get their commitment on the spot, right? Because you don't want to be leaving that property without that commitment and then later sending them a listing agreement by DocuSign, and by then they've changed their minds, right? So bring it with you, get it signed on the spot. You want to be bringing your MLS data information sheet as well. They're going to need to sign that, but it is a long document. So that one you might want to just present to them and let them know, I'm going to fill this out and this one I will send to you by DocuSign. Or Authentisign. So have that one available as well. The FINTRAC, of course, you want to be taking their photo ID so that you know they are in fact who they say they are. Of course, you would have already checked GeoWarehouse before this to make sure that you are meeting with the owners. And also on that note, making sure that you have both owners there. So if you've checked GeoWarehouse and it's Mr. and Mrs. Smith, then you want to make sure that you're not just meeting with Mrs. Smith, you want to make sure that you've got both of them there at the table, right? You need both decision makers, you need them both to sign the listing agreement. Bring the working with a realtor, and a move that I really like is bring a lockbox with you. I think that's a power move, a confident move. As soon as you have that listing agreement signed, you can let them know, I'm going to put a lockbox on your door right now so that when you're out of the house, when you're at work, whatever it is, you know, my stager can come in, my photographer can come in, whatever the case is, and you've already got that ready to go so that you can list it quickly and you've already got the lockbox there for showings. So it's just a really confident move, as I said. So that's what you should be bringing with you. Don't forget the listing agreement. That's the takeaway here. All right. So this is just the first slide, I guess, of my listing presentation. And this is one that I downloaded from Breakthrough Broker. So as I said, you can upload your picture, you can change your contact information, all of that stuff. I'm happy to share with you the presentation that I have just because I have put in some Zillow facts so that I'm not only talking about, you know, my background and who I am and how I can serve, you know, that particular seller, but I'm also talking about the brokerage, right? So tech-powered brokerage, you know, all the visitors, you know, you want to be updating that all the time so that your numbers are accurate. So really keeping that updated. Like I said, I'm happy to share that with you if you want to send me an email, or maybe I'll just upload it to the workplace group. And then from there, you can customize, you know, what it is that you're going to be doing, right? What marketing you're going to be doing. So as I said, go through the Breakthrough Broker website. That template has all of those slides already created for you. And then you just fill in the blanks and personalize it to yourself, right? And what it is that you offer. We also have, or at least we had, some hard copy booklets in the office, and they were actually, I believe, called Working with Sellers and Working with Buyers. I know that last time we were out of the Working with Sellers, but we still had the Working with Buyer booklets. So grab those if they're available. Call your growth manager, see if those have been reprinted, because I know the numbers were, they needed to be updated. So find out if they're there, because it is a great tool to bring with you as well to the listing presentation. And then also, you know, when we do go back to open houses, it's nice to have these things, you know, out on the kitchen counter with your business card, the feature sheets, and then these hard copy pamphlets they can take away, you know, buying and selling with Zillow. So even if they don't have that hard copy available, like I said, I'll share with you the listing presentation that I have, and you can add Zillow facts to that. Another thing that I really like suggesting here is when you are doing your listing presentation, and again, you're sitting across the table from your sellers, go through your CRM, show them the power that we have behind us. So show them the reverse buyer search. Go into your CRM, so log right into it. Go into your tools, drop-down menu, and click on reverse search, find buyers, and come prepared. If they have a property that is for sale right down the hall from them or right across the street from them, have that MLS number ready and plug it into the reverse search, click on find buyers, and there you go. You've got a list of people who have actually looked at that property, and you have not just a list, but you have their phone numbers and you have their email addresses. So I think a lot of agents go into listing presentations saying, you know, we have buyers, right? And that's kind of how they, you know, hope to get the business, how to get the listing. But here you can actually show them that we do in fact have buyers. We have a list of everybody who looked at a comparable property across the street from you or down the hall from you, and you can contact them. So show them that. I think that's really powerful. Not only that, but show them the Zolo.ca website, which hopefully they're already familiar with, but just highlight that if they do list with Zolo, they are a featured listing on the site. So what does that mean for them? If somebody goes onto the Zolo.ca website and punches in Toronto, the featured listings are going to come up first. And you'll see here the example that I have. They're not sorted by price, they're sorted by recommended, right? And so obviously the Zolo site is going to recommend their own listings. So it doesn't matter if the property is listed for $279 or if it's listed for $940,000, that's going to be page one on Zolo. So that again is super powerful with the number of visitors that we have. Make sure that you're showing that to your clients, that they know. All right, so commission. This is obviously a question that comes up during a listing presentation, and it can be a challenging one to handle. So really practice how you might respond to somebody asking you to reduce your commission. There's a bunch of different scripts online that you can look into and find the answer that best works for you. I've actually pulled up a few that you can use when being asked to reduce your commission. And the first one is great. The first one is just no. You can just stay quiet and let the silence, as it says here, do the heavy lifting. You might want to just expand that a little bit and say, I'm sorry, my commission isn't negotiable. The one that I kind of like to use, I like to say, you know, I'm sorry, I'm not permitted to reduce that amount. I kind of blame the brokerage, if you will. You know, it's not even for me to negotiate. I just can't. We're not a discount brokerage, so we don't offer, you know, 1%, right? You may want to, having said all this, you may want to negotiate a little bit if they are going to buy with you as well. In that case, you know, speak to your growth manager before and just see what you can structure, right? So here are just some, you know, objection handling responses. So yeah, feel free to look online and, you know, find what works for you and, you know, what you're comfortable saying, right, in that discussion. So there's one here where it says, I'm sorry, I just can't take less, and here's why. If you took $6 and laid it on the table, $3 of that goes to the buyer, right? I think actually that's a really good point. A lot of people don't realize that, right? So just a reminder, half of it goes to the buyer's agent. And then the other half, you know, $1 goes to my broker, $1 goes to the marketing efforts. And so there's really not a lot left at the end of the day. So if you just explain the way real estate works, I think sometimes a lot of people are in the dark. They just think, you know, wow, 5% is a crazy amount. 2.5, at least, you know, in Oakville where I am, is really non-negotiable for the cooperating broker. I know other areas are a little bit different. Brampton, Hamilton even, you know, I think they typically do 2%. So just know your area, know what you're up against, but know what you should be getting, right? And negotiate that for you as well. So again, just taking the time, especially right now that we do have the time, figuring out, you know, how you want to best handle this question and just rehearse it so that it's second nature and that you can come across in the listing presentation really confidently about your commission so that you're not walking away, you know, having negotiated 1%. Try to, you know, there's a lot of numbers between 1% and 2.5, I always like to say. So if you are going to reduce your commission, don't start with a 2.5 ask and then drop it to 1. Maybe reduce it to 2%, right? Especially if they're going to buy with you. So I'll leave that at that. All right, so as I said at the very beginning, when you do walk out of that listing presentation and you have that agreement signed, that's always exciting. Don't forget about updating your CRM. So you want to go in there, and again, at this point is where you would click on the agreement button, and then you would say that you had a listing agreement signed. So you would submit your update. You'd probably get a call from your growth manager saying congratulations, and then you can strategize, of course, with them about what are the next steps. So let's talk about the next steps. Uploading the listing. So for those of you who are new to Zolo or haven't had a listing yet, just a reminder that we upload our own listings. So you would log into Treb and you would upload your listing. So let's just show you how that's done. So you would click on the Add Edit button, and that's where you would fill in all of the information. So you need to have your listing agreement signed. You need to have your MLS data information sheet signed. So even though you're uploading these things, you do have a requirement sending in these documents to the deals department within 24 hours of uploading your listing. Really important that we do that to make sure that the paperwork is in order. And if it's not, then they'll let you know if there's a signature missing or whatever it is. Making sure that the sellers initial one of these two boxes, and in some cases, both boxes. So for example, if you have a listing presentation and they say, yes, we're interested, we want to list the property on MLS, but we need a month to whatever it is, paint or whatever, then you might want to have them initial multiple service listing, and then you could put a date in there saying as of April 30th, and then also have it signed exclusively so that you can market it to your colleagues at Zolo. If you are part of a Facebook group, I know there's one in Oakville. I'm sure there's one in every area where local agents promote their listings that aren't yet listed on MLS. So just have them authorize that you do that by signing or initialing that exclusive listing bubble at the top. And then you can say, you know, effective immediately up until April 29th, if you know it's going to hit MLS April 30th. So keep that in mind. So make sure that everything is filled in correctly, as well as your MLS data information form. So you've got all that, you've uploaded it, you've sent your documents to the deals department, or actually, I guess I should say, you've uploaded them to web forms. So everything is in order. Keep in mind that just because you have access to upload listings does not mean that you can just go in there and make changes without getting authorization from the seller. So if you've had a property that's been listed for 2 weeks, you haven't gotten any showings, you haven't gotten any offers, obviously there's a problem with the price. So if you want to reduce the price, don't just go into Treb and just change that. You do need to have the paperwork behind it. So you need to have Form 240 completed by the seller. So in this case, you would say the list price, if it was formerly listed at, I don't know, $650, and you want to reduce it to $599, make sure that you're stating that, you're getting your sellers to initial, and that authorizes you to make the change on MLS. So make sure that you're doing that. All right, marketing the property. So this is where we get to have some fun. Obviously, you want to recommend staging. I think it makes such a huge difference. These two photos are actually the same place. You can see that it was a bachelor apartment. I don't know if there's anything wrong with that, but you know, he's got the screen down, he's got the projector, you know, balancing on a popcorn box on the coffee table. So obviously that's not the photo you want to take. That's not the photo you want to put up on MLS. So if you can have a stager come in, all of a sudden, you know, you can see in the other photo that, you know, projector screen is rolled up. We've got a nice piece of artwork. The projector is nowhere to be seen. It's actually hidden in one of the baskets. So, you know, just be creative and make sure that those photos really highlight or showcase the property in the best possible way. I know it's tempting when you walk in there. If this is what you see when you're walking into a listing presentation, I know it's tempting to maybe look at a previous listing and go, oh, well, that picture is much nicer. Let me just use that. Make sure that you don't. So our MLS rules indicate that we are not permitted to use photos without the consent, the written consent of the member who created or purchased that material. So just keep that in mind. Don't be using other people's photos. Get them done yourself. Also too, I mean, it's, again, if you're going back in time and you know you're wanting to purchase photos that were done for the previous listing, that may you know, not show the property in its current condition, and then you've got buyers coming in, looking at it going, wow, that was a bait and switch, right? So just take your own photos and showcase the property in the best possible light in its current condition. All right, marketing materials. So yeah, I mean, again, this is a good time to order your for sale signs at the very least. And if you do want to do something that isn't the Zolo brand, if you want to have a little bit of your own, custom marketing, then, reach out to Hamid. He's with Sidekicks Media. He's in the office at Zolo, the Toronto office. So speak to him about maybe branding yourself. So if you wanted to, do something a little bit different with your picture, maybe you have a slogan. Of course, always remember you must have the Zolo logo on there. But if you want to be a little bit more creative, now's the time to have fun with that. So reach out to Hamid. I'm sure he can come up with some ideas for you. And order your for sale sign. Even order open house signs if you want. Obviously, right now we're not doing open houses. I think that might be my next slide. Yeah, if you go onto the RECO website, obviously I think everybody gets email notifications of what is happening, but as it stands right now, this is our mandate. We strongly recommend that brokerages and salespeople follow the direction of health officials by declining to facilitate or participate in open houses. I think, even just as recently as last week, there were open houses, at least in my area. So those should no longer be happening. And then limiting showings to where they are absolutely necessary. So, maybe put out a mandate of your own so that your clients know how you are following these directives, just so that they know that you are, not disobeying the rules, but that you're taking precautions. So if you are going to do showings, maybe you have a little package that you bring for your buyers, right? With, the, what are they called? The, why is the word escaping me? Lysol wipes, the sanitizer, if you have a little kind of grab bag like that, I think that's a good touch right now. Otherwise, doing virtual tours. So let's talk about that. Let's see if this works. So hopefully the listing that you want to show has a virtual tour. I came across this one the other day and I thought it was really good. I don't know if I can play it. But yeah, this one was really great. So it kind of did a video tour, but then also on the left-hand side, you were able to click through the property to kind of navigate this, this virtual tour. Oftentimes, I see that there's a virtual tour, but really it's not. It's just a slideshow of photos. This is what a virtual tour should look like. So if you're getting virtual tours for your listing, make sure that it's not just a slideshow, but it's actually kind of an interactive map where people can kind of walk around, click on different rooms to really explore the property. So having said that, if a listing that you're going to do or a property that you're going to show, if they don't have a virtual tour like this, I'll just make a quick note right now about doing virtual tours, with either FaceTime. If that particular client doesn't have an iPhone, maybe you're doing a WhatsApp video. I did that the other day. So just being creative and, just using technology to our advantage and yeah, doing those virtual tours so that if you don't have to meet with them or you don't have to meet with them, then, you've got another way of showing them the property. All right. Okay, so let's talk about offers. And again, feel free to talk to me if you guys have questions. The Q&A is open. Yeah, I'll answer your questions, but let's talk about offers. So obviously we have an obligation to convey offers. So if an offer comes in, say for example, it's ridiculously low and you're embarrassed to even show it to your seller, you do have an obligation to convey that offer to the seller, right? So make sure that you do. That's all I'll say about that. But talk to them about the pros and cons of delaying offers. So up until just recently, in Toronto, we were seeing a lot of multiple offers. So listings had offer presentation days and times, and I'm still seeing that. But obviously, even though things are still going into multiple offers, I haven't seen anyway, 10 or 20 offers. Now it's more like 3 or 5 or 6. So just let your clients know, and especially given the time that we're in right now, instead of pricing a property low in order to get multiple offers, price it right and then get the right offer. Also because that's going to eliminate all of the showings, all of these people wanting to see the property, 5 people submitting an offer instead of just one good one. We're trying to social distance, we're needing to be responsible. So as listing agents, at this time, instead of listing a property really low and generating a whole bunch of showings, price it right and get the right offer. Oh, we do have a question coming in. Let me see. Do we have all the virtual tours on our website or a third party? So the virtual tours are done, by a third party, and there's a whole bunch of them. I can actually post on the Workplace training channel. When I post this video, I'll just put some links to maybe some recommended companies. If you guys have companies that you've used that you like, that have been great, then definitely let us know as well. The last virtual showing that I just showed you, I'm going to find out who did that because I thought that one was really good. So I'll post the company there. So and also I think Hamid has a connection with virtual tours, so reach out to him as well. So yeah, thanks for your question. I'll make sure that we have some recommendations on the Workplace channel. All right, so explaining the pros and cons of delaying offers to your sellers, and then also explaining that if they do want to delay offers, that it may lead to preemptive offers, right? So in other words, those bully offers. And oftentimes we see that listing agents put in the brokerage remarks, offers to be presented on March 25th, but the seller reserves the right to, consider a preemptive offer. To me, that just means offers anytime. So if you're a listing agent, instead of doing that, just offers anytime, because really that's what you're saying anyway. So keep that in mind, I guess. So make sure that you do have your client's instructions documented and in writing. So, how do they want you to deal with preemptive offers if you were to get one, if you were delaying offers? So just document all of their instructions so you really know what their expectations are and how to follow them. So just always be in contact, obviously, with your sellers, but also know how it is that they want to handle these offers. So document your client's instructions and any changes of direction as well. All right, so once you've sold the property, that's always exciting. Let's just talk about for a moment if you had multiple offers on the property. When you are a listing agent, making sure that you are organized in some way so that you can present the offers just really clearly, right? So if you have 5 offers and you're presenting that to the seller, make sure that you might want to do like a quick table, like to compare each offer, so that they can decide, which one's going to be better. And it's not always purchase price, right? So, setting out what each offer is in terms of purchase price, what their conditions are, if anything, what their closing dates are. So really being organized so that you can present that to the seller. Keep in mind, multiple offers can be stressful. Buyer agents are oftentimes calling, have you made a decision? Are we the highest? Should we change our offer? So you really want to be informing everybody. And there's a good strategy always with multiple offers. There was an email that I shared before from a listing agent that basically said, please come with your best offer. We will not be doing a second round. So everybody knew at that point that they weren't going to come back with, an opportunity to improve the offer. So all of the buyer agents were informed. So you really want to keep everybody informed and updated as to how many offers there are, and then whether or not there will be a second round. So, just keeping everybody in the know, right? So a couple of notes about that. So multiple offers can be a little bit stressful, but if you manage it properly, and you're organized about it and you keep everybody informed, then it doesn't have to be stressful. And also talk to your growth manager if you know you're going to have a multiple offer situation, so that they can really talk you through some different ideas and suggestions for that particular listing. But once you do have the property sold, again, as I said, that's always an exciting time. Make sure that you're reporting your transactions on TREB. So when does this need to be reported? In all cases, it must be reported within 2 days. So ideally right away. If you have an offer and you've accepted it and it's sold conditionally, update TREB. You have access to it, so just update it. As soon as those conditions are fulfilled, then obviously you want to be updating that. Did it firm up? Did it fail? So is the property back on the market or not? So updating that sold price as soon as you can. So just keep in mind, according to our MLS rules, we do have 2 days. but try to do it even faster than that. For no reason should there be, calls a week later about, what did it sell for and it hasn't been updated. I'm sure you've encountered that. It can be super frustrating. So if you're the listing agent, just make sure that it's properly reported. All right, I think I sped through that today. So if there are questions, please let me know. Let me see. Yes, I did speed through that. I probably had too much coffee this morning. Awesome. Well, if you guys don't have questions, then I don't want to rattle on, but yeah, just if you have any other questions that come up maybe later, feel free to contact me directly or post them on the Workplace channel. That's what it's there for. And, we'll answer your questions as soon as they come in. So your growth managers are always there for you. I will announce what I did at the beginning. So for those of you who joined us kind of midway through the webinar, I did just want to say to everybody that typically we have a customer service webinar, or what we did have scheduled was a customer service webinar for Thursday, and then we had a phone skills webinar scheduled for Tuesday. We're going to combine those. So those are now going to be offered together this Thursday. And we've done that to make room for Dr. Mike, who's going to be joining us on Tuesday. For those of you who were at our Zolo event, I guess it was last year now, he did a fantastic presentation. So I'm really looking forward to having him. He's going to be, again, hosting the webinar on Tuesday at 11 a.m. And he's going to be talking about well-being and performance during a pandemic. So it's going to be really useful. So make sure that you tune into that. All right. Osama, thanks for your question. How to deal with preemptive offers. So yeah, really take the lead from your seller, right? How do they want to deal with it? Oftentimes you will get a really good offer before the offer presentation date. In that case, talk to your seller and talk to them about whether or not they want to accept it. So I did have a situation once where a preemptive offer was accepted. We notified everybody who walked through the condo. We let them know that there was a preemptive offer and that we were changing the offer presentation date from 2 days from now to right now, basically, right? So we received this preemptive offer. It was expiring at midnight. We let everybody know that the offer presentation date had changed. So making sure that you inform everybody is, first of all, the key to handling preemptive offers. What ended up happening in that situation was the seller accepted the preemptive offer, even though other offers did come forward. But then what happened 2 days later on our original presentation date, another offer came in better than the offer that was accepted, and they hadn't been notified of the change in the offer presentation date and time, just because they didn't register. I don't know what happened, how that one fell through the cracks, but they weren't notified, and they did come forward with a significantly better offer than the one that was accepted. So obviously that had to be disclosed to the seller. The seller obviously was disappointed about it, but we had followed his instructions, the seller's instructions, to accept the preemptive offer and to notify everybody, that one had come in. So again, we followed his instructions, but just keep that in mind for the future. Maybe even use that as an example with your seller, that even though we notify everybody, there may be somebody who hasn't done the showing, or maybe I can't remember what happened there. I think it was an assistant that showed the property. So it just, as best that you try, sometimes things fall through the cracks, and in this case it did. So there was a better offer that wasn't accepted, right? Just because a preemptive offer was accepted instead. So just let your clients know that that's sometimes a possibility. Sometimes it's best to just stick with the deadline if that's what you're going with, and to just not accept preemptive offers at all. But having said that, sometimes preemptive offers come in, they're firm, they're over ask, so it's very tempting. It's very difficult to turn that down. But have a conversation with your seller and follow the seller's instructions. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, thanks for that. All right, so if there aren't any other questions, I will leave you with that, and I will see you on Thursday for our phone skills and customer service webinar. Thanks, you guys. Have a great day. I hope you're well.